rave.
Never really saw you coming until you turned me around. Used to think I was nothing, but look at this love we found. So give me your hand, hold me to the side. I wanna see you
Good afternoon, everybody. It is a rare Friday stream, which means anything can happen, because I don't normally stream on Fridays. So, we're going to see what's going to happen. But we're going to start with attempting to get the route badge before a race, without going deep enough that I ruin the race. We'll see if I can manage that. Who knows? It's supposed to be a fun race anyway, so... Doesn't mean people aren't going to go hard, it just means I don't have to take this seriously. Basically to make up because I didn't ride Wednesday or Thursday. Wednesday, work went long. Hi, Nix. For stupid reasons, I really don't think it was worth going long. Yesterday I just felt like crap. I did not feel like getting on the bike yesterday. Did you lose the ball, Nix? Okay, yeah, at least have a habit. So, we're going to ride today instead. Probably still ride tomorrow as long as my legs are not destroyed. But probably no braces tomorrow. Unless I really have a weird night and my legs just magically recover. Which is unlikely. So, we'll hope that magically they are better, but I doubt they will be. Thanks, Darren. So we're just going to try to do climb control to try to get this out of the way. This is one of 5 routes I still have left. I think it's 5. 5 or 6. I've knocked out a lot of them, so. And I didn't want to do New York, so this was next best. That was a reasonable amount of time. So, we'll hopefully get this done. Move on. I probably will, once we get to the jungle, I probably will switch my bike. Oh man, are we gonna have to climb the jungle twice? That's miserable. I know this was for a workout, so I get the logic of it. It's also continuing to test the saddle, which I'm not 100% sure I've dialed in yet, but it's also breaking in the saddle, so. Probably, I think I've got it too high again. So, I think I'm gonna fix that real quick. I need a middle ground. I have not gotten much yet. Too high, too low, too high. Tough thing with the saddle is you don't know until you ride. So we'll keep trying. But I can tell that was worse than what I had on Tuesday. So I'm not gonna bother injuring myself by riding that like that when I can tell it's not right. Did I accidentally disconnect this? What happened? Alright, you look like you did. Cool. I must have accidentally touched. Hello? What are we doing? I can go Bluetooth, but I'd rather not. Are you good this time? Let's just go ahead and unpair you. Okay. You gonna stay this time? Are we done fighting? It's definitely the direct connect that's fighting me. Because heart rate is not dying. Heart rate is Bluetooth. Is control actually working? Because that does not feel like... Okay, resistance says it's there. There we go. Alright. So we're gonna fight the trainer today, I guess. That's always enjoyable. One of these days I will actually get a bike fit and stop fiddling with it myself. But it's not anytime soon. Curious if I still have the saddle too high.
Hello there.
Vidar! How's it going? I'll give it a little bit more, but I think the saddle's still too high. I'll be racing in an hour, and the Friday fun races. But right now, I'm just going to try to get a route badge done. In the meantime. All of my body is just like, bleh. Not happy. So, I'm going to save the reason that it's ridiculous racing until we get to the pens. And then you'll see. Oof. Well, I mean, you're more than welcome to hang out if you'd like. Race isn't for about an hour. Just going to try to warm up by getting a route badge without blowing myself up, hopefully. At least that's the hope. No worries. Have a good one. Appreciate you hanging out for a bit. If it goes well, it'll be on YouTube, or the VOD here on Twitch will be here. Well, and YouTube, I guess. Even if I don't highlight it. Because I don't private live streams. It's just I don't always cut them. It's Laguardia Loop Reverse, so it's not the new New York, which makes me happy. Slightly. Oops. Hit the shift button. A remix of Shaggy's Mr. Fantastic. That's interesting. can't say I had that one on my bingo card. So I am on a time trial bike to get some time on the upgrades. I'm not going to upgrade this anytime soon. But just so I can kind of slowly work on new bikes instead of just riding the same ones. And it makes sense if I'm riding solo when just on a route badge. I'll try to balance out what I'm leveling based on what I'm doing. And this made the most sense, so. My hope is that I started this early enough that I'll have plenty of time without having to like burn myself out or something. Which should be the case. But we'll find out. So, there's another one of those rides that they did for Build, I think. I'm not 100% sure. It's one of the base camp type things for training that they made another route for. So, gotta get it done, unfortunately. Not that I'm a huge fan of the jungle. But if we're gonna be in the jungle, I'll go level my... maybe a sparrow? Maybe. So I think that's my typical go-to gravel. I don't think I have any other bike that I typically go to. So obviously I want to try to level the bikes that I'm going to use the most. I'm leveling the Shiv mainly because I need a third specialized bike. I have one full level, one half level, so if I'm going to work on another bike, it makes sense for it to be a specialized. Even if it's not the top tier time trial bike. The Shiv is up there though, so. And I'm a specialized fanboy, so. You'd think I'd ride a felt considering what's behind me. But no. There's no specialty felt bike, so. Goal is to keep mostly blue, maybe a little gray and a little green, but try to stay blue for power zones. That way I'm not tapping in any reserves. It's also kind of why I have W Bell at the top, so I can make sure that I don't really ever see that go down. Because if that goes down, I'm burning something that is not a guarantee that I'll get back. Kind of a last-minute plan, because I didn't initially plan on doing this, but I forgot Penguin had a work function this evening. So she's not here, so why not? More time on the bike, because I didn't get any yesterday or the day before. My body doesn't entirely hate me today, like it had the past couple of days. It's not like my recovery's amazing, but It's better than it was yesterday. I think I was in the red twice. Wednesday and Thursday, and I don't know why. Today I'm not green, but I'm not red, so better. Had I been red today, I probably wouldn't have. Probably would have taken another day off. Listen to the body. Which is why I figured I'd also give myself a longer lead-in. Kind of warm up. Give myself about an hour. See what that does. Whether it's better or worse. It's very plausible that it's worse. We'll find out. So I'm gonna guess we're gonna go right. We don't get a lap banner? No? Okay. It just didn't... I don't think it has a lap banner here. At least not that I see. I'm gonna go ahead and pull over here. That way I can get on my Sparrow. Oh, there. I don't want Zwift wheels, I want something better. If I'm gonna have to ride this, I want to make it as easy as I can. So, this is the choice. And I'll also get a little bit of draft from people now. To a sprint. I am racing in a little less than an hour, so we'll see, Spoon. How you doing, though? I'm trying not to burn matches before the race. That's the goal. Otherwise, I would not be in the jungle. Because I hate the jungle. Oh, feather works. That's actually moderately useful for once. Thanks, Zwift. This is very grudging that I'm in the jungle. I'm not happy about this Zwift. Why? Why do we have more routes in the jungle? I know Peter's probably happy, but I'm not Peter. Nor do I desire his brand of masochism. So, twice up this. Fun for everyone. I hate this stupid climb. I know, Wine Grape complain. But I do. This climb sucks. But this will be a good warm-up, hopefully. Just have to make sure I stay responsible and don't go too far. No, W belt dip, so be better. Gotta make sure I don't touch the 20 in W belt. It's my goal. Excuse me. And I just have to hope that my trainer doesn't TC again. I don't know exactly what did it. I know the connections aren't great. I don't think that's the Ethernet cord. I think that's just Ethernet jacks in general. They're always so finicky. But this one seems especially finicky. Which is only slightly worrying. Okay, probably in a little too much of zone 3. Very difficult for me to ease, though. One of those things that... On a climb, my body has a certain pace, and it's like... This is the pace we're doing. This is why I'm getting a power meter for my time trial bike. So I don't do this. Because that's the worst place to have this happen. Where you have a number you're trying to hit and your body's like, nah. Positive or negative. I very much have that issue. I'm very curious to see my left-right imbalance. So I'm sure it's not great. I'm curious how bad it is, though. I'd love to think that it's not, but... I don't think ride-ons give drops, do they? I don't think so. Am I wrong about that? It's very, very plausible that I am. I've never really paid attention. I never give ride-ons to anybody who asks for it, though. You gotta earn them. They're not free. I didn't earn my 100 ride-ons badge by asking. Neither should anybody else. Do a long enough ride in the right place. Or join group rides. Solves the problem. Go ahead and use this now. Try not to up my pace too much, even though I have a feather. Sloth. Sloth's name is Simon, isn't it? Am I crazy? Why is a level 100 on his... well, I guess. You could say why is a level 100 on a Zwift bike. But they might just be leveling Zwift frames. That's my guess. Answered my own question. Getting to the top. I've definitely done more Zone 3 than I intended, but my W bell is 20, so I can't complain too much. I mean, I can, I just won't. Yeah. Curious how long this lap will take me. So we're almost to the flat. Got the stupid bridge. Downhill, which is not straightforward. And then one more time. Oh yeah, no, I hate gravel. That's why I'm on the gravel bike, is mountain bike feels super slow. But gravel has a little less rolling resistance. Trust me, I don't want to be here. But it's for a route badge, so I want to get that done. But, how are you doing, Slow? Which part? The CRR, the rolling resistance, or? Oh, yeah, no. Miserable. I did like when they did, what was it, a whole lot of gravel, or hands full of gravel, where they turned the jungle into gravel? Or was it they paved it? I don't remember. I think there's one time they paved it, one time they did gravel. And it was so much nicer. But yeah, road bike is the lowest on this. Gravel bike and mountain bike are close. Mountain bike supposedly is faster, but I just feel slow on a mountain bike, so I don't know. It's probably the roadie in me that hates being on a mountain bike. Because they've toyed with the, oh, it 100% is in my head, I know. But, I don't know. I don't own a mountain bike, so it's tough to convince myself to ride one in game. Because it's not a familiar thing to me, so. This just feels faster. If I had the money and space, sure. I don't know about Superior Bike. Not where I ride. I do not do anything mountain biking-esque. And for that, I have a gravel cross bike. Which I have done a gravel race. It did suck. I do intend on racing cross at some point, though. But I did a 50-mile gravel race, and my god. Worst experience on a bike. Granted, it also had monsooned the night before. So the course was horrifying. There was like 3 miles of single track that was almost unrideable. I guess double track. I tried riding it a couple of times. It was worse than gravel. There was a lot of gravel. But the beginning and the end were sketchy for a gravel bike. If a gravel bike wasn't running mountain bike tires. Like, if you weren't riding 2.2s, it was nightmare fuel. I eventually got off and walked because I was too concerned about the damage my bike was going to take from how nasty the double track was. It did a number on my bike. I think, because that was this year, we actually had worse weather than Unbound. Unbound had better weather than we did. It was nasty. It definitely deterred me from wanting to do it again. And, like, they were, like, selling, like, beautiful vistas. And I'm like, it was gray sky and miserable. It wasn't pretty. There was very few times where I looked around and I'm like, oh yeah, this is beautiful. We were just in the plains. So. And there was so much stupidly steep climbing. Like, Oh, I was not on a good day. I after like 45 minutes to an hour, I was like, I'm not enjoying this. How far in are we? It was like a quarter of the way done, and I'm like, this is gonna suck. I won't lie. The only thing that stopped me from pulling out was pride, because there was no good place to pull over and call for Penguin without somebody noticing. That's literally the reason I finished, is my pride. That's, I'm not even gonna sugarcoat that. We were out so far in the middle of nowhere that the only places to pull off were driveways. That's it. So I'm like, well, I'll find a place to pull off and maybe I'll call it. Because it's that thing of, once you get into your head that it's miserable, it's really hard to pull out of that. And I mean, I'll be honest, I never did. It never got better. I was just happy I finished. I was not happy that I did it. There's been no slide back up. Oh, maybe it wasn't that bad. No, it is firmly cemented as one of the most miserable times I've had on a bike. There's two others that stick out. Pikes Peak. Was that last year? Where we got sleeted on and it was freezing and the organization was terrible. So I ended up having to ride a rim brake bike down in the rain. Which on a road that has 160-ish switchbacks is terrifying and had not been the plan. For some reason, for over 1,000 cyclists, they were running 2 shuttles. And it was like an hour between shuttles. No, it wasn't the ride's fault. It was the organization. The organization only ran 2 shuttles. And they fit like 50 people. And it took them about an hour to do a round trip. And the summit was like 40 degrees. And they had told us there would be food at the summit. The food wasn't free. For riders, there was no free food. No, not the rim brakes issue. Because they had told us there were shuttles, but the shuttles were terrible. The organization was not handling things well. We had given them our cold weather bags. It took them about 10 minutes to find my cold weather bag when they had numbers and they were labeled. I've gone to a bigger event that had me my gear bag within 60 seconds. No. When you're at 14,000 feet in oxygen debt, freezing because you rode through hail and rain, and it's less than 40 degrees, there are certain things that you expect from a ride, because I've run a ride with better stuff than that. And I will hold to that. I have done better. It was very poorly managed. But not having food at the summit is nearly inexcusable. They had us go inside, and it was basically national park level pricing. So they're like, we have donuts. A donut was like $5. None of us really had money because we had just done a race. So none of us had anything to pay with. It's like, what? I've never been to a ride where you didn't get a free meal ticket or anything like that when you paid as much as I did. That ride was over $100. That's not okay. For over $100, I expect something when I'm finished. But the other one was the triple bypass ride this year, which was miserable. But that was not the organization's fault. That was, I think I've learned that my body is not made for long distance. So I'm probably just gonna not do that again. 6 hours on the bike with 6 hours to go broke me. I will fully admit, I broke hard. But I've never been an endurance person. I've done longer rides, but I don't normally enjoy them over that distance. It's more I wanted to finish it. 6 hours just to warm up. Well, the buddy I was riding with did 12. But, I think a big piece of it is, unfortunately, due to my cancer, not having a large intestine, my body does not process food correctly when I'm on the bike for that long of a time. It doesn't. It's not pulling nutrients correctly. It's only using stores. So there gets to be a point where I'm just running on fatigue and nothing else. And food that is going in isn't meaningfully contributing to my stores anymore. So I think that was a big piece of it. Because I stuck to the nutrition my body knows. But it just wasn't happening. And it's that thing of, I don't want to be miserable on a bike. That's never my goal. And that was, I would love to pretend I wasn't miserable. I was miserable. It's just not worth it when there's limited spots to that ride. I'd rather somebody that's going to enjoy it do it. I mean, I did do like 5,000-6,000 feet of climbing in, what was it, 50 miles? So, that was pretty good. But my body shut down on me. It was done. And mentally I broke. I will not pretend that I didn't break mentally. Because I absolutely did. But it is what it is. I'm not going to put finishing an event over health. And I could tell. And even Penguin, when I pulled up to the rest station, where friends and family were able to aid, she looked at me and goes, no. I'm like, okay. I mean, that's kind of fair, Slow. You've had a lot happen. The fact that you can ride, take that as your win for the time being. That's a win in of itself right now. You have a lot of wins in itself. So give it time. Give your body time. I'm sure you'll get back there. You can do it for me. Because I have zero interest in doing that again. Like, that was kind of the nail in the coffin of me doing super long rides anymore. 4 hours, probably my cap. Because that's where the nutrition that I've stored up prior is still going to be functional. Three hours was where I started noticing that food intake wasn't having effect. 4 hours is where my stomach shut down. And my body was not intaking anymore. And I started getting nauseous. So, I'm gonna go with 4 hours is probably a good calling point for me. Which I'm fine with. I don't feel like I'm missing anything. I'm not sad about it. So do I. I am quite far from that now. I do miss my college racing years. I'm happy with how much I did though, so I'm not upset. But I do miss it. Gonna ease a little bit more. Get myself less in the green, hopefully. Yeah, the big thing is I won't sugarcoat a lot of my experiences. And I will admit when I falter. The gravel race, that wasn't the organization's fault. That was Mother Nature's. And I didn't have the right bike. My gravel bike had like 33s on it for tires. Useless tires. They did nothing. I never felt stable. I absolutely should have been running much larger tires. But it was also kind of an experiment of, will I enjoy this? And the answer was no. No, I will not. So, that was purely a test. I'm going to hold that the Bike Peak one was on organization. Partially just because of how much the entry fee was. There's very little excuse. Triple bypass is just my body. I probably could have trained more, but I don't think that would have changed the nutrition factor. The nutrition factor was too much of a sticking point. I just didn't have fuel, and it wasn't for a lack of trying. If I ever did something like that again, I probably would go solo, because I was riding with somebody, and their fitness level was just too much better than mine. So I wasn't, like, super pushing myself to stay with them, but I was definitely a little less comfortable than I should have been. See, the tough thing for, like, my gravel bike, I don't have spare tires. I only have the 33s, which is why I rode 33s. I didn't have a choice. That's partially why it was a test as well. Yeah. It was like, is this going to go okay? The answer was no. It was not. Oh. Yeah, studded would have been too much for this. I would have just killed for anything between 40 and 2.2. Fair. Considering where you live, I don't blame you. .8 studded, Jesus. Yeah, that's fat bike. Yeah, I wished I had 2.2. It was much nastier of a course than I expected. The first, like, 5 miles were single track. And I was not expecting single track out of the gate. And then the last 5, roughly, were single track. No, last 5 were double track. But 3 of it was muddy beyond belief. And it was that it had just started to dry. So it was so sticky. All of the roads were just suctioning the tire constantly. Like, you could hear it. Because everything was just the right level of damp. And so many of the roads were washed out, where you were dodging these massive ruts. Funny thing is, they're not using any pictures from that race because they know how bad it looks with how bad it was. Because it was cold, rainy, gray, and every road was nasty. So, like, none of the pictures are going to incentivize anybody to go do it. It's the same with the Pikes Peak ride. I have not seen them use any of those pictures because it's not a selling point. All of us are bundled up, absolutely pelting down with rain, looking miserable because it's cold, we're soaked, because at the bottom it wasn't raining. This one, unfortunately, talks about the scenic views and how pretty it is. There was none. Even if there were, you could not see them. So, ironically, a lot of their pictures are of blue sky. So, I do not foresee them using any pictures. Because the route looked pretty reasonable. Penguin was going to do it because they had an e-bike route that was like 30 miles. And we looked at the weather the day before and we're like, no. Like, they showed it hailed to the point where there was like 2 inches of accumulation of hail. It was bad. It was very, very close to being canceled because it almost got to dangerous levels of washout. Because there were some of the climbs that there was one safe line. That's it. Because the ruts were terrifying. Because we're talking like 10% climbs with ruts all down them. And you're just trying to find a line up while everybody else is around you. It was not great. It very much turned into attrition of just try to finish. Alright, I will get this route badge, that'll be nice. I know, Zwift, I'm sorry, I keep touching the button. It's so frustrating. I really don't understand why it doesn't, like, have a dismiss it for don't show again. Because literally, every time I touch it, it'll pop up. Like, watch, this will go down. And I can get it to come right back up. And it's like, I know. But you put steering, I can touch the steering and the shifting at the same time. Like, I get it. I don't need to be reminded every time I touch it. Because I'm touching the virtual shifting when I'm trying to steer or shift with my actual shifters. So, and when I race, how I grip my handlebars, I accidentally tap it all the time. So I just want a box that says, yes, I get it. You don't need to tell me. Like, just dismiss forever. I get it. Like, have one checkbox for each unique user. So it says, generally lost has checked that he knows. So don't play this again. And I'd be fine. But the amount of times that I accidentally tap it in a race is so infuriating. Because when you're over your FTP, over your heart rate threshold, and dying, and that pops up, oh my god. It is hard to not get frustrated. Even though it's just a pop-up. It's so annoying. And it's one of those things that... Oh, I have brakes turned off because I honestly cannot think of a normal use case for braking. There's none. If they had implemented, like, speed braking in corners as a penalty, sure, but I think people would be upset. There is the only time that I can ever think of braking even being remotely usable is trying not to get burned by the fence in a group ride, or team time trial, which would just be a light tap on the brakes to try to get the group to come by you. I don't understand why they have braking. They have implemented nothing in the game that makes it useful. It's only a hindrance. And it's very easy to do if you're not paying attention. It feels like it was something they intended. Hi, bath salts. It feels like it was something they intended on releasing, but never knew what to do with it. So now it's just a nuisance. Because I don't know of anybody that has braking still turned on since they released the toggle to turn it off. Everybody has turned it off. Like, pretty much far enough. It's just one of those features that you just go, why? Who asked? There's a lot of things people ask for. That is not one of them. But how you doing, Bath Salts? Not to be passed by a pro. There they go. Yay. Give me the draft for 2 seconds. Technically, I'm probably still getting a little bit here, but it's better than me never using it, so. It's one of those things I wonder. Does Zwift have the draft hold to the road, or is it a straight cone? Because I could see Zwift having it be. But I want to know why the devs asked. Yes, Bat Salt. Because your kicker died. Yep. Are you liking it? Yay. Yeah, race mode is so nice. That has been... Like, once you have race mode, you cannot go back. Because you realize how slowly a normal kicker updates. Or a normal trainer, for that matter. Race mode is, like, just so smooth. I mean, that makes sense, slow. That's probably also because the flywheel, as mentioned, by Bat Salts. I would imagine the Duretto kind of can top out a little bit better because the flywheel. Alright. Yay. No more jungle again. I want stupidly chill for a little bit. Kind of have a nice chill spin for a little bit to get my legs fully settled. Oh, I'm on a gravel bike. I'm like, this feels like this is harder than it should be. That would be why. I was very confused. I was like, this doesn't seem right. I hate when I do that. I will fully admit I have done that once in a race. And it is absolutely a race killer. That's a weird question to ask. How many hours per year do you ride? Why wouldn't you ask how many kilometers or miles? Hours per year is a very interesting quantification of riding. I don't like that Tawny doesn't have an owl instead of a lion. It makes me sad. Feels wrong. If you understand, I'm proud of you. I guess they're a mountain lion, but if your name's Tawny, then you need to have an owl. I don't make the rules. Alright, almost time to hit the pens. Almost. Alright. Switch. So, just over 10 minutes. I let the scratch sit for too long. Oops. Yeah, it's just one of those things, like, if you ask me how many hours, I couldn't tell you. Usually, kilometers is just an easier statistic to grab. I've never heard somebody ask about hours before. Like, hours per week or month, maybe, but not per year. That's a new one for me. Five hours zone 2 a week. Oh, you are stronger than I. I could not handle 5 hours of zone 2. That would drive me nuts. Excuse me. Curious how my legs will fare after doing a route badge. I don't normally do that before a race, so my legs are probably gonna be like, what the heck? For a lot of people, they'd be like, oh, that's just a warm-up. For my legs, it's like, no, we're done. Because my body is stupid. Does not pay attention to context clues. Almost time to get the fence. Alright, let's go ahead. Is it gonna be? Oh, I'm excited for this stupidity. There's a reason I titled it what I did. Oh, I'm excited for this. This is gonna be so stupid. Oh, this makes me happy. Oh, it's so dumb. Oh, there's a reason the thumbnail on YouTube is what it is. Oh, I love it. Alright, I'll be right back, chat. Enjoy the ridiculousness that this is. I hope there's at least going to be 10 people, otherwise this is not going to be as enjoyable. I want more people. More people. Alright, who's ready for stupidity? Oh, because this will be good. This is going to be great. More people. I'm not going to be able to take this seriously. Where's Barney? Come on now. He's got to do this. Alright. So... why are power-ups broken? I feel like they're always broken for screenshots. 3 minutes. This. Yeah, it's okay. Oh boy. He is. How hard is this race going to be? Because this is 7 laps of Laguardia loop. How much lap elevation, total elevation? Okay, that's not too bad. Good song. All right, we're up to 8. Come on, people. Keep it coming. We need more. The bigger the field, the stupider this looks. Double check this real quick. With all the loosening and tightening, I want to make sure that everything's sitting level. Just in case. Only 8? Come on, people. At least 10. I know there's other stuff going on. Come on. At least 10. This is the Friday Night Fun Race. They do one every few hours on Friday night, if I'm not mistaken. But how you doing? All right. Come on, Sauce. There we go. 20 seconds. Absolutely stupid race here. But this should be good fun. Oh, man. See how hard people go. Oh, it's so dumb. Yep, not taking this one seriously. It's great. Oh, New York is Christmas fight. The head waggle. What the heck was that? Is there boost? Oh. Sorry, Peter. It's a serious cycling simulator. So we have boosts. You get 2 a lap. Getting overtaken by a head-wagging dinosaur. Yeah. It's about as ridiculous as I thought it would be. Just trying to process this normally is so difficult. Like, where to sit for draft. How to analyze the rider position. Alright, this is going to be a risky one. Will we get the boost back? We do. I'm gonna chill for the time being. I forgot the wheels. Like, they look like they're falling off. Oh my god. This is... I love this. Oh, man. This is stupid and awesome at the same time. I love this. Gotta be careful, because I can get carried away by the stupidity of this. We're definitely not going easy. Yeah, it's weird. This is like, I'm definitely pushing more than I usually would just because the amusement.
Can you feel that?
Down to 5. This is tiring. Is he gonna go again? Yep.
Can you feel that?
Sorry, I'm not talking much. Keeping me on my toes. Very not normal, so I'm trying to think of strategy as I go. Kind of strategize on the fly. I have an idea for final lap. It's just making sure I get there in the front group. This is so stupid. I love it. Halfway. It's definitely fiercer than I thought it would be. But I also wasn't expecting boost power-ups. John pulled a blinder. That was good. John is not a cat T. His power has been way over. This is much harder than I expected. Yeah, John's gone. On the butt. My legs are toasty. Oh yeah, very much so. Ah. I nailed what I was hoping for. I wanted to save both boosts, so I had him for the finish. That's why I chased him down when he used his, because I knew if I had 2 and he had 1, they should be done. Oh. Whoa. Whoa. Ugh. I will take that. All right. Let's find a good. All right. Let me put this back and see how that graph looks. Oh. Because I want to see that. Because I can only imagine that was a lot of red. Yeah, okay. I feel better about that now. My God. That is... Oh! That's a lot of red. That is a lot of red. Oh, wow. Almost at a... getting close to a 35-minute best. But, dang. I'll take that. That's a pretty good workout. Alright. Oh, God. My legs. Ooh. Oh, what is this? This is new. The heck? This is really cool. I wasn't riding on my new bike. Oh, right, duh. No, it wouldn't have mattered. I wasn't on my bike at all. Duh. Woo. This is new. This is very cool. Okay. I like it. I won't be upset with that. All right, I'm gonna do a very short cooldown. Oh. That was fun, but like the first 2 races were like, haha, this is so funny. And then after 2 laps, you're like, oh God, we're really gonna go hard on this. They were not fooling around. Oh man. I'm happy. I mean, I'm very proud of what I did. And I don't think I could have followed John. John was very much stronger than all of us. So I am not upset with not being able to follow that. So hopefully everybody enjoyed that, because that was a lot of fun and very painful. I was very cautious that my plan was going to work out. I did not know if that was. But it worked out perfectly. I think the key is John figured out the best way to use that boost where it made the most difference. And none of us followed because we were too gun shy to use our boost. And then we ended up dropping 2 extra people. So we didn't have the numerical advantage. If we worked as a team and we like coordinated boosts, we probably could have caught him. But I think we got 5 seconds at one point was the closest, but oh well. I'm gonna assume Penguin's home, considering that all the animals are here. You just missed the most ridiculous race. 8 of us on big wheels and dinosaur suits. It was funny for 2 laps, and then the last 5 laps hurt like hell. Because I realized it was so stupid that I wasn't riding normally. So I was having too much fun playing with the head going. And by the time I realized that, I'm like, uh-oh. Uh-oh. This is actually hurting. It was worth doing a race. Very, very painful, but it's good. It's good. Yes, Nix. He never knows what to do with himself. Oh. Route badge in a race. I'll take that for today. It's pretty good. I'll be done in like 3 minutes. God, I've been on for almost 2 hours. I rode for an hour before I even did the race. Wind down the legs so I don't hop off immediately after a race and have them whine at me. Not like they're not already. Saying they're not is a lie. Do I have somebody coffee stopped on me? I think they are. Oh well. Hey, I finally have my little Scotty plush. It's not the full one, but it's been a while since I've had that one. Seriously, I don't know why they don't sell that. Like, why is a Scotty plush not a sold thing? Do they know how much money they'd make off of that? I don't normally buy merch, and I would buy one. Like, I can imagine there'd be plenty of people that would go ride outdoors with Scotty. Yeah, it was definitely a very unique race. I'm glad I did that. Because I knew it was going to be big wheels. But I didn't know there was going to be a dinosaur suit. The dinosaur suit was a nice extra. Alright, so I raced today, so I probably will not be racing tomorrow. I might ride tomorrow morning, but I almost guarantee that I will not race. We'll see what I end up doing. Depends on how my legs feel when I wake up. So I'm pretty happy with what I did today. Managed to get a route badge, got a race done. Really good race at that. I'm definitely happy with how ridiculous it looked as well as my performance. Oh. That's it for my legs. There. Almost 2 hours on a night where I don't normally ride is Pretty good. I'll take that. Ugh. I'm not gonna lie. That race was definitely a lot more intense than I anticipated it being. I figured it would be a fun, ridiculous race, but they went hard. They did not take that easy. That was consistently. I mean, I've been taking it easy for 6 minutes now, and my normalized power is still 209. So that was no small feat. They were pushing, which I mean, I'm not entirely surprised. But whew. All right. I'm gonna go ahead and head off. I probably, like I said, I'll probably be on tomorrow morning. I just don't know what I'll be doing. Probably something chill. I have no interest in doing the tiny races, which is why I kind of did something tonight, because I don't have any interest in doing the Segura 4 times in a row. That sounds like absolute masochism beyond even me. So, nope. Maybe magically I'll change my mind and do it tomorrow, but that's like a 1% chance. So, don't count on that. I don't have any short route badges left, so I don't know if I would do my New York badge. That's 40 kilometers, and I don't know if I have the desire, but who knows? Maybe this will jumpstart my system and my body will be like, yeah, let's do things tomorrow. So we'll see. But yeah, I should see everybody tomorrow morning, and then we'll go from there. I know that I will not be on Monday because I have an appointment. So yeah, we'll go from there. So have a good one. Thank you for joining, and I'll see you next time.